recording of the chapter 1 beta in our textbook that we use in here in Greek. We're going to be translating it as a class, and as per usual, for simply watching this, there's going to be 5 embedded words that are going to be presented by 5 classmates of Greek in the year 2022-2023 that they're going to come and say directly to the camera. So let's all go ahead and start out reading it now. And so hopefully from home, wherever you are that you're watching it, you'll be able to make sense as to what we are all saying. Hodikapolis ento agropone. Dikaiopolis works, is working, does work. It ends with an epsilon iota, which is the equivalency to a T in Latin. And here is your prepositional phrase. Now, in Latin, your prepositions have to have an object of either in the accusative or the ablative. However, the ablative does not exist in Greek, and so therefore your objects of prepositions are going to be either in the genitive case, which is going to be the object of a preposition indicating motion away from, dative case, which is what we have here, indicating no motion at all in the field, and then you have motion towards, which is going to require that preposition that's implying that an object in the accusative. So, Dikaiopolis works, is working, does work in the field, the dative case object of the preposition in. Tongar agron skapte. For he digs, he is digging, he does dig the field. Here it is accusative because it is the direct object of our verb skapte. And at this point we have our first word that you need to put in, and easily doing so, earning yourself a 100.
Your first word is digs. D-I-G-S.
The translation of skapte. So thank you so much there, Felix. Makros estin hoponos kai kalipos. The work, which is our subject, so I'll label that with an S. Estin, all linking verbs are?
Equal signs.
Oh my heavens, they're dropping the ball as the class. And then of course you have 2 complements. Remember that the complement is the thing in the nominative that is linked to the subject by the linking verb. You have CPN, which is complement predicate nominative, indicating the noun that is renaming the subject. And you have CPA, which is the adjective. And that's what we have here with CPA makros and CPA kalipos. The work is big and difficult or hard. Semicolon. Tous garlithus ek tu agru fere. For, there's that word again, gar, just like we had before. He, and presumably we're talking about the same guy, Dikaiopolis, he is carrying the stones. Now here we saw ton agron as the second declension masculine singular accusative direct object. Here it is the plural accusative, and so therefore he carries the stones out of the field. And here, as I said before, is another preposition, but ek, out of, is going to indicate a motion away from, and so therefore it is going to have the object of the preposition in the genitive, and so therefore that's the form that you have there, to agree. There'll be another video that you will be able to watch that is also going to walk you through the endings, and if we were to pan over to our board, if we were to actually put our hands physically on the camera and pan over to the board, using the handle that is the top right there, so that it is not as shaky, and if classmates were to help, the tripod is there so that there's not that much shaking on the camera, but we were to pan over, just pull it to you, and it is going to move, and okay, there it is. You will see our endings that we have been working on just like we do in Latin on a daily basis. But at this time, we will go ahead and pan back over to the passage there so that we can continue reading like we were just a second ago. At any rate, and so therefore, megon lithon aire. Aire is again our verb with that ending, the third person singular, he, she, or it. We're talking about Dikaiopolis. He lifts up a big stone. Now, I know it's not the big stone because there is no ton. Ton would indicate the definite article the, and so instead it is a big stone. So he lifts up, aire, a big stone, there is no definite article, and he carries it to the stone heap. Now, a little thing here before we get to our second word, but we're about to have our second word here in a second, is that here now we have another preposition. In, no motion, dative object, out of, motion away, genitive object. Here, this is the preposition that means to or towards, and so therefore it is going to have an accusative object, and that's what we see with Herma. Now, As I often say, your best friend in reading Greek is the definite article, because that right there is not a form that we see in the first declension, second declension masculine, or second declension neuter. It's third, so how are we going to know what it is? Look at the definite article. That toe tells me it's either nominative singular neuter or accusative singular neuter, and it has to be the accusative because it is matched up with the object of that preposition. And so that also tells me about herma that it is a neuter word, because the definite article has to have the same gender as the word with which it goes. And so our second word that we are going to have is the translation of lithone that you see right there.
Your second word is stone. S-T-O-N-E.
Great job, Vice also there. So we move on and continue, in which it is going to say, Iskoros estin ho anthropos, ala polun chronon pone kai malakamne. And so it says, as we have it here following along, the human, the man, but not man as in like a man versus woman, but human, as it were. If it were the word man, it would be the third declension word, aner, which is of course not what we have. So, the human is strong. And again, that would be our subject. All linking verbs are
Equal signs.
that was a little bit better this time, and then that would be our CPA. It's the adjective that means strong. So, the man is strong, but he works, he is working, he does work, again with that ending. And here we have an accusative form, and we all know duration of time and extent of space is always expressed.
Accusative case.
Accusative case is exactly right. And so that's why we say much time or a lot of time. And so he works for a long time, for much time, and he tires out very much. Down at the bottom, malakamne, he is very tired, but literally it would be he tires out very much. Period. And again, it's he because it has that epsilon iota ending. Phlegeg archohelios kai katatribe auton. For, third time we've seen this word, the sun blazes. Is blazing, does blaze. In the underworld there are several rivers, and the river of fire is the river known as phlegathon, from the Latin verb, or I should say the Greek verb, that means to blaze. So for the sun is blazing, kai, and katatribe, see it down at the bottom, it, meaning the sun obviously is the subject, wears out him. The word auton is merely the personal pronoun that means him in the accusative direct object, as it were. And so we come to our third word that we have here, which is the translation of the word helios.
Your third word is sun. S-U-N.
Thanks so much, Ernesta. So, we continue on. Katidze un hupotodendro kai hesukadze upalun chronon. And so. Now please remember that and so is not the same as ook, which means not, or ook, which means not, or oo, which means not, which you can see right there. That would be not, the next word begins with a consonant. That would be the word not, the next word begins with a vowel with a smooth breathing, and that would be the word not, the next word begins with a vowel with a rough breathing, as it were. And so, un, he sits, he is sitting, he does sit under the tree. And again, here the word under, hupo, it's where we get the word hypothermia in the wintertime, or hypodermic needle that goes under your skin, and there is no motion at all. So it is again going to have that dative object because it is no motion implied. And so he sits under the tree and he hesukadze, he rests, he is resting, he does rest, not. Duration of time and extent of space is always expressed.
Accusative case.
There it is. For duration, not much time. And so we come to our fourth word that we have here, which is the translation of our word katidze.
Your fourth word is sits. S-I-T-S.
Very good. Now, a word of interest is that this is the word in Greek that gives us the derivation of the word cathedral. We usually think of a cathedral as a church, and it is, but the reason why cathedrals are cathedrals is because they have within it a cathedra, which is a chair or a throne that is the throne of a bishop. And so if it is a church designated as the home church and the place of the throne of the bishop, we can call it a cathedral, as it were. If there is no cathedra that the bishop sits in, then we can't can't. And so, for example, the most famous bishop of all is the Bishop of Rome. The Pope of the Catholic Church is the Bishop of Rome, and so that's why St. Peter's Basilica is a cathedral. It is the place that houses his throne, or his chair, if you would like. So we continue on, and it says, Diu ligu gar, for soon, and we learned that down at the bottom, Diu ligu, he lifts up. Now, it's nothing more than the exact same thing that we had seen previously. Aire, here it's ep-aire, which means it has a prefix on it, epi, which means like to lift up upon himself, as it were. And here's the word him as a personal pronoun. If we add an aspirated epsilon, he-auton, do you see how it is the same except for the aspirated epsilon? It becomes reflective, so no longer him, but himself. For soon he lifts up himself, and he works, he is working, he does work. Telos, day. And or but is what day means. Finally, telos, the sun, katadune, the sun goes down, the sun sets, if you would like. And thus we then have our fifth word, that is the translation of the word telos that you see down there at the bottom.
Your fifth word is finally. F-I-N-A-L-L-Y.
Excellent. Finally, indeed. It is where we get the word in English, teleology. Something that is teleological is going to have a focus or a purpose of the end. In Greek, not a lot of what we do is teleological, because if we don't get to certain things, I shrug my shoulders, no big deal. But everything I do in Latin is teleological, trying to get you from Latin 1 in your very beginning to the AP Latin exam 3 years later. It is teleologically driven. Greek, not so much teleological driven. So, the sun finally, telos, sets, uketi un pone hodikaiopolis. Again, un, and so, uketi, a new word in this chapter that means no longer, and so, no longer does Decapolis work, is Decapolis working, Decapolis works no longer, but didze, he walks, he is walking, he does walk, or he goes, if you would like, towards the house. And again, if this word implies motion towards, it requires an accusative object of that preposition. And your sixth and final word is the translation of the very last verb, badidze, walks, W-A-L-K-S. And so therefore, I hope you enjoyed the video and all of us delivering it. The one person that worked the camera rather well, I will say, quick on his feet, was Aker, and in the next video we'll make sure that he has an opportunity to give you your word as well, watching it not here. So, thank you so much, and hope you enjoyed.
Stop.